Okay, so for this training video, we're going to show how to take a touch probe and probe a 3D surface. And this is a propeller here. We're not going to do the entire propeller, we're just going to kind of do a little 3x3 rectangular area or square area. So essentially the way you can think about this is the probe is going to start in the bottom left-hand corner, and it's just going to go down and touch off a point, then move over a small amount in X, and then touch off another point, and just kind of keep doing that until it does all 3 inches in X. And then it's going to go back over to here and step over in Y, and then repeat that same process until it's digitized the area that we specify. Okay, so for this video I just kind of threw the thing up on the machine to show how to do this. So I've actually set my 0 right here. This is my XYZ 0. But on a real part, you probably would have a 0 in kind of like a dowel hole or something like that, and then you would move to a different location of where you want to start your probing operation. So I'll talk about that here in a minute. So let's get into the software to see how you tell the machine to probe this. So let's go ahead and open up the probe category, and we're going to look at probe rectangular surface. Okay. The only two of these that are used for reverse engineering would be probe profile, which is kind of a 2D around an object in 2D, and probe rectangular surface, which actually is a 3D probing operation. Okay, so we're going to give it a tool here. We'll just go ahead and pick the probe at the bottom, and then we'll go ahead and open that up. So we're going to change our length to 3, which is in the X direction, and then our width, which is in the Y direction, to 3 as well. And we're just going to give it a spacing. We're going to leave it at 100 thou in each direction. So that's going to pick up roughly 30 points in X and 30 points in Y. Okay, so the lowest depth, this is kind of almost like a timeout depth, where if it goes down past negative 100 inches, it'll just move on to the next point. This can be used to prevent the probe from dropping into holes. Since we have a solid surface here, we don't have to worry about this. But you can use this if you have a hole in the middle of your 3D surface and you don't want it to go down below a certain depth. Okay, and then the point consumer, we'll get to this here in a second. Let's look at retrack distance as 100 thou. That's just basically how high it comes up every time it digitizes a point. And we have these plane rotations. This allows us to take our standard XY rectangle and then just rotate it. So typically you would rotate around Z. Let's just say to maybe 45 degrees, and now we kind of have that whole square rotated 45 degrees. Okay, so it's still going to do a 3x3, but it's going to do it. Like when it digitizes, it's not just the first section here that it's going to probe is not going to be in the X-axis, it'll be in the X and the Y, so rotated 45 degrees. But for this, we're not going to use that. We're just going to put this back on 0. Okay, then we finally have our rapid and probe feed rates. So yeah, 400 inches a minute is pretty fast for rapid. Should be fine. If you want to be a little bit more careful and you don't want to break a probe, go ahead and set it to 100 or even slower. And the probing feed rate, between 10 and 25 is going to work well. Okay, and so I mentioned about like your starting point. So it's pretty simple. You just have an XYZ starting point. So let's say I have my XYZ 0 over here somewhere. I would set this to something like 4 inches and 2 inches, whatever. So this is kind of the bottom left-hand corner of where you want the probe rectangular area to start. Okay, so we'll go ahead and set these both back to 0. Okay, now the points consumer. So now this is where we tell the probing operation where we want that data to go to. Okay, so this is actually going to take the toolpath instruction, probe rectangular surface, and put it into our CAD area over here. So we're going to come over here and make a new 3D sketch, and that gives us this 3D sketch area right here. And then in our points consumer, we're going to tell it that's where we want the data to go to. So click on that, and I won't get into this other option, toolpath over here. You can tell that you want to send the data to a toolpath if you want, but I won't get into that right now. So we're going to click on 3D CAD and then hit options. And we're going to tell it that we want to put the data into our sketch 3D. Okay, so just double click on that and then hit OK, and you can see that it tells us Sketch 3D is the same name as this. Okay, so now we know it's going to go to the right place. And once we have our zeros set up and everything, you just press cycle start, and the machine will probe this entire rectangular surface. And we can expect to see something kind of like this. Okay. All right. Okay, so once I get done, I'm going to end up with something that looks like this. So basically we have probably 20, or no, sorry, it's going to be 30 sections here, and each of those has 30 points in it. And it actually makes a spline out of these, so this is a nice smooth curve. It's kind of an average of all the different points, or a smooth spline of all the points that are in each section. And that resembles this, this surface right here. So now we actually want to take these data points and actually make a surface out of it. So come over here to 3D CAD, and we do loft sketches into solid. Okay, and it's going to ask us what data we want to use for that. So we're just going to come over here and say pick by box. We could pick each one individually, but if you just pick by box, you can grab them all. And now we have a surface. We can turn off our sketch if we want, and there's our surface. Okay, and then we can do a lot of things with this surface. We can just, come over here to our 3D instructions and do a standard surface finishing on it. And I'm going to talk more about those in another video. But that's pretty much it for how we actually probe the surface. Okay, thanks.